Hello, welcome to Sarah's Prismatic Musings. My nephew is back. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank
And
you. I'll
this
be back.
time we are going to be talking about something maybe a little bit more fun, a little bit more spooky. We're going to be talking about ghosts and aliens and our encounters with them. So, Kyle and I had discussed this. He has gotten some really great UFO photos. We may or may not be able to show you all those, but I've seen them. They're legit, and I'll let him tell the story later. But I swear the ghosts knew that we were going to be doing this. And even though we just, painting just fell down, even though we just saged, uh, a ghost decided to step on my foot in the bathroom and then it brushed past me like right before going live. So they just are attracted to, at least me. I don't know. How about you, Kyle? Do you attract ghosts?
It depends on the location. I can sense energies in certain places, but I don't know if they're drawn to me as much as Catherine, my fiance.
So do you bring ghosts home with you? Because I bring them home. I bring them home from work. I bring them home from the store. Like they just tag along. Like they just catch a ride. I brought them home from uh, uh, we went to that overnight kind of like what was it called? Like it was like a supernatural con. And they had um like ghost hunters, Native American ghost hunters, and they even did a ceremony. They saged us all, and I still ended up bringing a spirit home. And then we went hiking like a month later or something, and I was like, listen, it was like a nature spirit or something. And I was like, you belong in nature, you don't need to be with me. And I left it there. But yeah, even when I've been saged and even when there's protection up, I'm bringing stuff home. So it's funny that you don't, but Catherine brings them, huh? So do you guys sage or do Palo Santo or how do you guys get rid of them?
Um, Catherine does a little bit, but her house is just haunted in general. So that's
Yeah, too bad Catherine couldn't have joined us so she could tell us the cool, crazy haunted stories.
yeah, that would be cool. She has some really spooky stories about being grabbed and whatnot in her bed, and she has some pictures from her house of ghosts, and then people have seen them walking around. She's seen them,
Have you seen them?
not at her house. No, I actually haven't felt any energy there. I wonder if it's because they're her great great grandparents. That might be a family thing
Hmm.
because other people haven't there, but only her, her grandmother, her mom.
Yeah, but you're gonna be family soon, so
Might have to be after we get married. I don't know, or they
so
don't think they'll get to me.
well, hopefully not, but so tell me about this. You said you guys do the like trying to explore all the counties in Vermont. And you
Yeah,
said you had a paranormal experience. What happened on your adventure?
yeah. This one was really weird. This was a year or two ago, and it's Catherine and I were driving around the state, going to every single town in Vermont. There's 252
Oh,
towns in Vermont,
it's
and
towns, not counties.
yeah,
Okay. That's
I mean we go to
cool.
every town because of going to every town. But yeah, it's a fun road trip activity. But we were in Brookfield, Vermont, and it's known for its floating bridge, and it's this wooden bridge that's sitting on these really large barrels, and it's floating in this pond. And the reason it's floating is because it's too deep to put pylons to have it be a solid bridge. So the easiest way is to make it float. And it was it May? It was I think early May, a nice bright afternoon, weekend day. And then we were coming back through this old village, and all of a sudden, it was not really the corner of my eye, but it was still in my field of view. There's this house off to the right on the side of the road. There's a little bridge over a stream, and there was a little gazebo or something. And on the bridge, it looked like there was a person standing. And there was this like, I couldn't really make out any features because I wasn't really paying attention, but it looked like a person out of the corner of my eye. And I did a double take, and there was nobody there. There was no shadow, there was no tree, there was no branch, there was no person. It was just corner of my eye. It was, I could see a head, shoulders, and then it looked like they were wearing like a dress or something. It was all very dark. Couldn't make out legs or anything or arms. And then that felt, I was like, okay, yeah, that's a ghost. Uh, Catherine didn't see it, but yeah, the rest of the day I was thinking about that. That one definitely stuck with me because that hadn't happened. Like I've felt energies before, but I haven't. That was the first time actually seeing a ghost. So that was kind of an interesting experience that I remember and associate Brookfield with. Because yeah, I didn't. I was like, oh, could it be a shadow? And it was like, no, there's no trees. Like the sun was shining in a way that there wouldn't have been a shadow. Like it. And I've driven past there again recently, and yeah, I made sure that there was no tree there or anything. It was just really cool.
That's cool. You're lucky that ghost didn't follow you guys home.
Yeah, I mean, if it did, I haven't known. It's been a while, so I probably would have known by now. Um,
So a few years ago, you used to go, well, you go biking more than hiking, right? So were
yeah,
these, you caught all these photos of UFOs when you were out biking?
yes. So this was like 10 years ago now. Uh, there was one summer where I got three different photos, uh, and what I do is when I go biking, there's a good overlook. Take a bunch of pictures, and I just snap like five or so in a row. And when I was looking back at the pictures of the overlooks, I would see, okay, trying to find the best one to post online because I used to do that a lot more. And it was interesting because I had a couple that were just had nothing in them, and then so the first one nothing, second one nothing, third one had a little UFO in the background, and the fourth one had nothing, and there's a lot of blur on it, moving really fast. But because I had been doing the quick, snapping the photos, obviously whatever got caught was moving really fast, and it was just a chance I got it. And that happened three times in three different locations. I mean, they're all within like a 10-mile radius of each other.
Were
But
they all in Vermont?
yes, well, one was looking over New Hampshire from Hartford, one was looking north, and one was looking west. So one north, one east, one west.
So yeah, I saw the photos, really cool. And then I was living in Phoenix at the time, and I knew a lot of ufologists there. Everybody was into UFOs, obviously in Phoenix. I would have thought that they would have been in the top 10. Phoenix is not, New Mexico is, but Washington State is number one in UFOs. And then I didn't look at what rank New Mexico was, but Arizona wasn't even in the top 10, which really surprised me, especially with like the Phoenix Lights and just the sheer number of alien enthusiasts and people who claim to be like hybrid aliens. So I was just really shocked that Arizona wasn't on the list. But anyway, I showed your photos because you had sent them to me to a ufologist in Arizona, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely a UFO." And then you said you had showed your professor, one of your professors, and he said the same thing, right?
Yeah, I had
Now,
a English professor who was very into ghosts and UFOs, and he did ghost tours at my college because it was pretty haunted up there as well.
well, that's cool. Did you see anything at your college?
No, but I think I got grabbed by a ghost once, but I couldn't tell. Like,
Oh,
um,
shoot. Were you like by yourself?
I think I was there with, I forgot who I was with. It was around orientation week, and there's a museum there that's full of artifacts from, I mean, every war that people have fought in that went to Norwich. So Civil War, Revolution, World War One, World War Two, Vietnam, Korea, all sorts of stuff. And they cycle the exhibits. And I was just like in one of the rooms and felt someone grab my leg. What I felt like it was. It was either my leg was twitching or something. It felt like someone brushed against me, but no one was there. And there are stories at the basement. There's people have seen ghosts in the basement at the museum where they store what's not being on display. So it didn't surprise me because people have had stories, and that's what the professor was looking into. There's a couple of the barracks and the dorms that are haunted, and then the basement of the museum as well. And it's attached to the library, but I had nothing in the library, but only in the museum. Probably just because there's the separation and the artifacts being on the museum side.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that probably they were attached to the artifacts, maybe, and not necessarily the building. And you walked too close to one, and it was like, "Hey, let me touch you."
Yeah, I mean, that's probably exactly what happened. I wasn't paying full attention to what I walked past, but it was one of those moments like that was that was really interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
it's creepy to feel someone stepping on your foot or touching you or I mean, I've had um animals attached to me. Like I said, that nature spirit, it kind of those kind of look like like the Japanese anime, like the little spirits. Like that's what
mhm.
this looked like. Kind of like hybrid animals. But I've had like cat ghosts, um, like jump on bed and like curl up on me. Like the cat ghosts, I don't really mind. Like part of me is like hoping it's, one of my cats that's passed away. I'm like, oh, like, those the animal spirits don't bother me. It's, the humans that I'm like, okay, like go away. Like
Yeah,
I don't know, just go away. But while you were talking, about the UFOs that you caught, I was shuffling cards from the Mystic Martian Oracle. And it's interesting because I've never heard of this alien species before. And it's cool because there's a cactus in here. And it's this alien species is called Ebens. And the keywords are mystery, reading between the lines, and intuition.
hmm.
Like, how cool is that? Have you ever heard of that alien species?
Haven't.
Yeah, I've never heard it. Let's see what it says. So, EBIN is an acronym for extraterrestrial biological entity used by specialized top secret pathology something and scientific experts researching discovered ETs in captivity, alive or possibly injured from spacecraft crashes, or
Mhm.
researching deceased ETs via autopsies. So it's not just one type, it's just any alien that's been captured. Many alternative scholars believe the tiny mummified skeleton found in the desert in northern Chile is indeed an even and not human for a range of scientific reasons not mentioned in mainstream discourse, and because humans are ancestrally of ET genetics, which goes totally against the official publicized narrative. So it says card meeting mystery, unknown, reading between the lines, discernment, intuition, healthy skepticism, infant, something is in its infancy stage, discriminating data and questioning. That's interesting because your grandparents said that they were seeing those big car-sized, you know, whatever they were drones when they were all over the East Coast, especially in New Jersey. Did you see those? You didn't
Didn't
see.
notice any. I've been seeing like the only thing that was different is there's some satellites, like the Starlink satellites. Like what I assume are those a couple times. But when there was people seeing the drones or whatever they were, I didn't notice anything. But I wasn't really paying too close attention either. Because like where grandma and grandpa are, they have a really good view of
The
the
sky.
night sky. And over here, there's so many trees around that I really only see things in the sky when I'm driving. So I usually
That's
don't. It's like come to like certain vistas or whatnot.
that's where like I've had friends who, lived in the Upper Valley and like when they're out driving, that's when they would see UFOs like up ahead, like above them. So do you think those, UFOs that you saw, do you think they were extraterrestrial or do you think they were these drones? Do you think they were reverse engineered from crashes and from our government?
Well, which ones? The ones in the
That you,
images or
huh?
the, the ones from the images are the ones that I've seen overhead?
The ones that from the images that you took 10 years ago.
No, those ones definitely aren't. If they're, I mean, the UFOs, I mean, I bet they would be probably extraterrestrial because they're moving so fast. I mean, I didn't see them with my eye. I only caught them on camera. So for them to move in that fast and to still have that shape, there's no way it's a human created object unless there's technology that I don't even can't even begin to comprehend. I mean, it would have been a blur. So there's just so much unknown that, given what I do know, it's probably extraterrestrial. But I haven't seen any since, and none have shown up in pictures. So I don't know if it was just a really active time, and I was just taking more pictures or what.
You at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it just kept happening and happening. I was like, "Yep, this is just." I was expecting to find more, but
I know it's like Kyle's a UFO magnet.
I was for a little bit.
Oh
And
man, I would have been afraid of getting abducted.
yeah, I had a couple dreams where I almost did around that time.
But you weren't, so like in the dreams, like you were afraid they were gonna abduct you and they didn't, or did you actually get abducted in the dreams?
In the dreams, I didn't get abducted. I was just, it was, they had stopped moving and they were just hovering in the valley. And I just tried to get somewhere where they couldn't find me.
So we were talking about it, before we started recording that you used to love to stay at your grandparents' house, my parents' house. And when you would spend the night, you always had nightmares. And I think part of why I have such bad insomnia now is because I always had nightmares in that bedroom.
Yeah.
And all my nightmares, like most of them, had to do with aliens. Now, grandma, like what I could watch on TV was so strict. Where did this like fear of UFOs and aliens come from? I have no idea, but I was like terrified of being abducted. Like that was my number one fear. And it was either, well, abduction by aliens, or I had this one reoccurring dream that my best friend, who was our neighbor at the time, she would get kidnapped and thrown in a white van while we were out riding our bikes. So it was always like abduction, whether it be human or alien. Those were like, the dreams, the nightmares on repeat. But I'm like, where did this fear? Like I was terrified as a kid of aliens. Like
Hmm.
so scared, like irrational fear. And it's like the way that some people are afraid of snakes was the way I was afraid of aliens.
Yeah, I was too.
You were too?
Yeah.
When you slept at Grandma and Grandpa's, did you have nightmares about aliens?
Yes. It wasn't just there though. I had some at my house too. Theirs was mostly like, it's hard to recall where. certain nightmares were because the last time I stayed over there was around the time I got. I mean, it was probably longer ago than when I got the pictures of the UFOs. It's been more than 10 years.
Yeah, it's probably been
So
15.
yeah, I had one dream though that was really scary about the closet and the doorway on the side of the room, and there was like something going on in there. I don't know if it was like a portal or whatnot, but it was very disturbing to me.
You know that I bet there is a portal there. I think that all the portals have been closed. They're supposed to be, but on your grandparents' property, there were lots of portals, like lots. So I don't know if you've seen anything, but like even going back, like I've seen fairies like with my physical eye, not like third eye and not like and I was lucky that the way that the fairy showed themselves to me was like looked kind of like Tinkerbell, like it was cute. It looked kind of like a butterfly, but had a human face and kind of like a human body. And it was cute, but I know that, the fae can be terrifying. Nature spirits, they can either present really cute, like they do in anime, or like the fairies of what is that? Like Disney, or they look terrifying and they're huge. But I think that, I mean, we're lucky that the portals at Grandma and Grandpa, mainly, I think it was like nature spirits, but I would say entities definitely were going in and out. And I think that area and that clo in the closet was like a big, and then there was a big portal outside the window, the tall window. There was like a portal um out there. Plus, I had a dream. So I had talked about this in one of my other earlier videos where once I started getting into doing like the new age stuff and going to psychic fairs and things, I had a dream about the property and that there were bones. Like if they move the foundation to the left by like a foot, they would have dug up human remains, Native American human remains. And the people who settled, uh, you know, the colonizers who settled there ambushed and, killed a whole tribe. And if they had moved over the house, their bones were all there. So I think that they had maybe were doing a ceremony or ceremonies on that land and they were ambushed and they didn't get a chance to close the portals. And I think that that's why there's so many portals on the property. And so that's why there's so much um spiritual activity. And so then I went to a psychic fair and there was a psychic medium who would draw. She drew grandpa's shed in the backyard where he keeps his lawnmower and she drew the house like correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she cleared the um the negative energy and it was, probably like the elder of the tribe and he wanted to revenge his family's death, his people's death. So he was really angry. So I saw him as a dark figure. Like he didn't even really look like there was no features. He was just a dark mass. He was just black. And I knew I had friends who would come over and spend the night and they would see him as well as just a dark mass. So after she cleared this, after she did the clearing on the land, he popped in and he was all glittering. He was all sparkles and he was all white. So he had released, she had cleared all that negativity, all that, and he crossed over. So that's how I can always tell if it's an earthbound spirit, is they're really dark. They're just a black mass. Or if they've crossed over, they glitter, they sparkle. So I've seen both. I've seen the earthbound spirits and I've seen the ones that sparkle. Like I was worked as a caregiver for an older gentleman, and it was so sweet. I was in his house and his wife popped in and I saw her like she looked, I saw her face and her hair and her clothes and she was so sweet and she just popped in to make sure that I was taking good care of her husband and that he was okay and sh no bad energy like it was just very loving, so you can always tell the difference between an earthbound spirit or someone who's crossed over and just saying hi. Unless, so in our previous home before we moved here, the gentleman who lived there before us passed away in the home. And I I couldn't tell if he was an earthbound spirit or a crossover because he had passed away. It was so recent that he hadn't become dark yet. And I kind of think he hadn't crossed over because he was looking for his wife. He wanted to make sure his wife was okay. And I kept telling him, like, hey, your wife, she's okay. She's with your daughter and she moved and she's being taken care of, but it was creepy. We had just moved in. Who has phone lines? We don't ever set up phone lines. And he had ran a
Mhm.
business out of the garage, and we would hear a phone ringing out in the garage like all the time. And we're like, we don't even have a phone.
Yeah,
So,
creepy.
that's the only thing is when someone's recently deceased, it's kind of harder to tell if they're earthbound or if they've crossed over because, I think it takes some time for earthbound spirits to become so dark that they're just so dense and so heavy. And then they're just full of rage, and you don't want them attaching themselves to you because then they act like energy vampires. They're gonna make you sick. They're gonna make you feel horrible because they need your energy, your life force to sustain themselves. So that's why they attach themselves to people to like suck out their life force energy so they can sustain themselves so they can continue to, you know, roam.
Hmm. Well, I wonder if that was the case with that ghost in Brookfield.
It sounds like the ghost in Brookfield. Did you see her clearly or was she dark? You said she was just
She was
like a,
just dark,
so yeah, she's
head and
probably
shoulders, and then that's it.
maybe there was an accident there. Maybe she died there, or maybe just something happened, even it doesn't even have to be like an accident, I think that sometimes maybe not being ready or like, they say unfinished business or, maybe that spirit had a lot of trauma in their life and they never resolved it or they didn't get to like clear things up with people or they didn't like the way something was left or there's just so many reasons. It's not always like, oh, the spirit was murdered. It's not even always that. Sometimes it's because they want revenge or sometimes they're angry or sometimes
Yeah,
um
and that all makes sense. And that's where it's too bad Catherine wasn't around to tell her stories because she has a lot of stories about human ghosts and animal ghosts and in her house from past pets and her great grandmother, the table that's in her house. Whenever they move it, that's when stuff happens. So we can probably say that for another time.
maybe
You
next
can come up,
time
but
Catherine can jump on with you
yes,
and
that
we
would
can
be a great idea because I think she would love to talk about that because she has a lot of cool stories. But I think for me, in that same sense, like yeah, grandma's house, there was a lot of like the nightmares about the portal, had the UFO nightmares kind of from place to place. I don't remember where the majority of them were, but I definitely sensed that on the shed side of the house. It was very weird feeling at times.
yes.
So that's interesting. If there's that correlation with the spirits there as well. On my property or my family's property, it was there was a cellar hole that was on this old stage road, It used to run over the hill. Now the road's in the valley, but it was all swamp, so they built the road over the hill, and now there's just the old trees along the road, and then the old cellar hall got filled in. But when I was younger, I really hated looking down the driveway at night where it crosses the old road. So I'd see what I thought were like figures like dancing around in the corner. I was just like, no, I don't. It was all really shadowy and dark, and I could not want to look out the window. When I was like five
Dancing?
and six, it looked like movement. Like I couldn't tell if they were dancing or if they were just walking around, but it was like a lot of, you know, looks like people's shadows kind of moving. I couldn't tell what they were doing, and I don't know. I didn't really watch long enough to make it out. But my old
That,
computer used to sit facing that window,
oh wow.
and I haven't felt that much since. I don't know if it's just a getting older thing where I might be less sensitive to that sort of thing. But when I
That,
was, yeah,
that sounds like the on the Hawaiian Islands. They say don't go out at night because there's like these protector spirits that like march like up and down protecting the land. So I wonder if they're like protecting or maybe they're stuck in a loop because then there's, energy loops where people get stuck and they're not actually earthbound. Like they're not actually there. It's just energy residue.
mhm.
Something traumatic happened, or maybe there was just maybe a lot of people always walk there. So now there's just energy and you're just seeing the residue of that.
Yeah,
Um,
and it was along the old road. And so, I mean, who knows how long the road was there? How many people walked along it? I also sense a lot of energy around the old trees, like the really, really old trees that the sheep used to use for shade. There is one road in Pomfret where it's like an abandoned road, but you can still bike on it. And one summer, it was this really, really bright day, but I was biking up it and it just felt so dark. It was just like these old trees that were flanking the road, and I just felt like I was being watched.
I'm gonna start that story over because my computer died. So I was out biking. It was probably a little bit after the time when I got the pictures of the UFOs. So probably like 8 years ago at this point. I haven't ridden this road since, at least not uphill. It's this really steep, rough road that you can take a Jeep up, but it's not really open to passenger vehicles because it's basically a riverbed now. But at the top of the hill is this really old, like 18th century house, or maybe early 1800s, late 1700s. It's not a log cabin, but it's a really small colonial uh, era house, and it overlooks this beautiful view of the valley. And this is really rough, now stream bed, basically road that's fun to ride down. And I used to climb it because it's more of a challenge. And it was this really beautiful, bright summer day. There were no clouds in the sky, and there's trees on both sides of the road, but they're the really old trees that used to line the old stage roads because it was the only shade that you had because they deforested everything else in Vermont. And I was climbing it, and it was this really bright day, and I felt really creeped out, kind of like the same feeling I had looking down my driveway, where similar kind of thing. It's an old, really, really ancient road with old trees, and I felt like I was being watched, kind of like from the direction of the house down the road, but also from the side.
I
Uh,
have goosebumps. Like I just got
yeah,
goosebumps.
from where some of those trees were, and it was this bright day, but I felt so dark. It was just like there was shade from the trees, but it felt like dusk. It felt like it was gonna become nighttime soon, and it was midday, and I was just like, no, this is not a place I want to be. I did not climb. Like I didn't. I've never climbed that hill faster than that day. I But just I wanted to get out of there.
Has
Um,
have anyone, I mean, I know it's trespassing, but has anyone gone in that house? Because I'm sure it's
People
abandoned.
live there.
Oh, no, people live there?
It's seasonal. People don't live there all
Oh,
the time, but
I figured it was like an abandoned house. Oh, people live there. But people weren't there or
no, not that day. The windows usually when I take pictures of that view of the house in it, the windows are pitch black. Um, it's creepy.
were
The
the
house is just
windows pitch black that day that you went by it?
I didn't stop to look. I was
You're like,
just
it was too
I
creepy.
turned left at the top of the intersection and just went downhill the other direction.
I want info. Like, do you know the people who live there?
My dad knows the person who used to live there. If they're not still living there, I don't think they live there anymore. I think it's new people.
Your dad needs to get the information and find out if they ever had any weird experiences and who they think is haunting the house. Like, that's crazy that people live there and you can't really get there. Like, it's so off the grid. I mean, is there even electricity
Um,
and running water to this place?
there is. So the way I would climb up to it is the old road that kind of goes in a straight line from my house up that ridge. If you go up to the ridge line, there's two other ways you can get there, and then it wraps around. So there's still a road up there, but it's a dead end now. And there used to be four roads that all met at that house, and it was the intersection. And now it's the very end of a dead end. So there's only one of the four roads that still gets maintained. So there's still access to it. It's just not the way I was going.
Oh, okay.
And the way I was going is the steepest way. Uh, and it's been other days where it's fine, but that day, like going downhill is usually fun. I don't stay there long enough to
Yeah.
feel
To
anything.
to notice if any ghosts are staring at you through the window.
Yeah, yeah. And ever since that day, I've never stopped to maybe just take a picture and then that's it.
All I can picture is like in my mind. Have you read the book we I think what is it called? We live in or we've always lived in the castle or we live in the castle and they've made it into like a movie like two or three times and it was written by Shirley Jackson.
Mm,
And she and her husband, they weren't from Vermont, but they moved to Vermont and she was a professor. And the book is just about, the isolation of Vermont and then the town turning against these two young girls and how they basically hold themselves up in their home and the house basically like is falling down around them, but they won't leave because the townspeople are so vicious. And like that's just all I'm picturing is when you talk about this house, like who would hold themselves up in there?
yeah, I wouldn't.
No. It's so isolated. I mean, where you live is isolated enough.
Yeah, but you're not at the end of a, you know, dirt road at the top of a ridge line
Yeah,
that
but your driveway scares the crap out of me. It's so scary. It's just like straight down. Like I have a fear also besides aliens. Like this is another nightmare, but it didn't happen until, I was older. Once I started driving 16 and older, driving in Vermont, I would have these nightmares that I would be going up a hill, up a mountain in Vermont, and then all of a sudden I would just the tires would lose traction and I would just slide down the hill backwards and
mm,
die. Like that became my nightmare.
I
And then
mean,
when I had to drive one time to work when I was working at the newspaper, and it was really bad weather, and they called everybody to tell everyone that it was closed, not to come to work. But I actually didn't live in town. I drove the furthest away. And I get there, I park the car in their driveway, go in, and they're like, "Oh, we're closed today. Nobody told you?" I'm like, "No." And I go out, and the car's at the bottom of the hill. Luckily, it didn't like hit a tree or a mailbox or a car or people. It just stopped. But man, Vermont mountains and hills scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, and they're definitely worth being scared of because it's better to be cautious than to go out and slide off a hill if it's all glare ice or if there's a lot of snow and hasn't been plowed. I've had a couple times on my driveway where I've slid going up and then sliding backwards and then sliding off the side into the ditch, going down a couple times.
I believe it. Your driveway is the stuff of my nightmares.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those cases where you don't want to brake. You just either at the bottom, you just go for it and just keep going. And if you're going down,
Right.
don't brake where it's steep and just hope that you can brake at the bottom before you hit the road. If not, you slide into the road. But usually there's no cars coming.
And this is reason number 801 of why I will never move back to Vermont.
Yeah, it takes a certain kind of I don't know what's the I wouldn't say it's
Constitution. You have to have the Constitution
yeah.
to be able to handle the cold, the ice,
I mean, it's like I don't know. I
the
wouldn't say it's like
isolation.
a confidence or even a. It's just absolute confidence in the vehicle to actually do what you want it to do, and then the confidence in knowing that if it doesn't do what you want it to do, that you'll be okay. And then, like, if you don't have that Zen connection with the vehicle, it's like it gets scary. And luckily, the mountain biking and all that, I've learned to trust vehicles a bit more. It's like as I've gotten more used to the winter driving, I've gotten more confident driving in bad conditions, but there's still days I don't want to go out. Usually ice. I'll do snow, but if it's freezing rain, I still don't. I've slid one too many times on town roads.
Yeah,
I'm just like, if you slide on the town road, then there's no sense in going out.
exactly.
Also, that Vermont stubbornness, I guess, where you don't want to. You're like, ah, it's fine, just some snow,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's
a
like
big,
a foot.
you're like, no big deal. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I've done it before.
I'll survive. I'll be okay.
Yeah, yeah, that good old New England stubbornness.
Man, even in Phoenix, people knew like it would rain, and I'm like, I'm not going to work.
Yeah,
Like it's just rain, but people don't know how to drive in rain in Phoenix. And then also because it hardly ever rains, when it does rain, it floods. Like certain
mm,
roads will flood. And then not only that, but it brings all the oil up. It becomes really slippery. Then usually if
yeah,
rain, then like it's just I'm like, I'm not driving. I'm not getting stuck in a flooding area because um this one road that I would have to drive through, like underpass, all the underpasses would always flood. They didn't have a good like irrigation system. And I'm like, I'm not going out in that. I'm not driving
yeah.
through
I've
it
been.
and potentially getting swept away. So,
We also have summer tires down there, so you wouldn't want to go out in torrential rain anyway because you wouldn't have traction.
you know what's funny is when I call tires summer tires here, even here and in Arizona, they're like summer tires, you just mean tires? I'm like, no, those are summer tires. I'm like, we don't have
Mhm.
winter tires or all, maybe the people who live in like, northern Arizona and like northern New Mexico, maybe they put winter tires on, but like, people like Nikolai who's like, winter tires? What are you talking about? He's like, people from warm climates don't know that there's, winter tires and then there's studded tires. And then if it's really like chains,
Mm,
if you want to be really intense about it.
yeah. And here you have a lot of people just use all seasons and think that all season means all season.
Nope, not in
It's
Vermont.
3 season tire
Yeah,
at
you,
best.
you need the studded tires.
Yeah, with a lot of the trees on these back roads, that's usually where I sense most of the energy these days. Is just those old trees. Either feel like I'm being watched or like there's a presence there. If I'm hiking or biking or wherever, and there's just certain spots that I sense that. In middle school in 7th grade, I was reading before bed and I thought I'd fallen asleep, but I wasn't really asleep. And it was really weird because what I was watching play out was an art class. It was the art class that I was going to have the next day. And so all my classmates were there and all this was going on. And then I kind of snapped out of it and the book was still open and the light was still on. I'm like, that was weird. I don't think I fell asleep. And then I was like, I'm just going to go to bed. And then put the book away, go to bed, wake up. It's my first class in the morning. And then what happened then happened in class. I think it was just like one of my classmates was kind of a goofball troublemaker type. And it wasn't a very long vision or dream or whatever, but it was just it happened exactly the same. He interacted with the same person, said the same things, did the same things, made the same joke. I don't really remember exactly what happened, but
Wow.
in the moment I was like, this was kind of crazy. And it hasn't
It,
happened since. But
so it was kind of like more than just deja vu. It was almost like, do you think you were like astrally projected to the future?
I
Or
I don't
did
really know.
did
Because
you
in the
feel
moment,
like you were there in the dream or the vision or whatever, or was it like you were watching it?
yeah, I felt like I was actually there. Like I felt like it was like a very vivid dream at, at most. Like there's so many details, there wasn't really anything left. It was like I was there. Which is why when I snapped out of it, I remember thinking that was really weird because I didn't think I fell asleep.
Yeah.
But I
So,
must have somehow some kind of, I don't know, state that I got myself in from just reading before bed. I don't know what happened.
I mean, it kind of sounds like a maybe a psychic vision
Yeah, that could be.
because I think you're very intuitive. I think you have psychic abilities.
Yes, there's a lot of times I get deja vu very frequently,
Yeah.
uh, but not to the same level as that. That one was very unique. Like, but I get deja vu so much to the point now where I'm like, oh, okay, that was weird, and then I can kind of predict what someone's gonna say or like what's gonna happen next, and I'm like, okay, yep, that happened, that happened, that happened, kind of on and on and on and on and on. Um, and I don't remember the context or like why I would if it was a dream. I have a lot of dreams I forget, and then I wonder if I have dreamt it. Things like that
That used
happen
to
to me.
happen to me. Not so much anymore, but when I was younger, my dreams would be so vivid that when I would wake up, I couldn't tell. I'm like, was that a dream or did that happen? Like sometimes I
Yeah,
couldn't tell my dreams apart from reality because like I would smell things in my dreams, like be able to touch things. Like it's like lucid dreaming. I mean, I guess that's what it is. It's lucid dreaming. If everything feels so real, it's like you are, as they say, like you are awake in your dream. You're living that other life in that other, is it dimension, reality? Is that the real life? Is this the dream? Like that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But yeah, when I was younger, like around your age, especially, that was like the height of it. Like where I'm like, wow, I can't really differentiate between my dreams and reality.
Wow, yeah. I've had some intense lucid dreams though. We can get to that another time. But
Yeah, we should talk about dreams because you have some cool experiences with dreams. We'll have to get Catherine on for sure.
yes, because we're talking about the shared dream, and then I had a dream recently. I don't know if I told you about it, but in the dream, it was a dream where you were like awake and asleep. Like it was a dream where you could wake up and still be in the dream.
Hmm.
And if you went to sleep at a certain time and like did a certain routine and whatever, like you found a way that you could like enter into different dimensions through dreaming. And then like there was this whole discovery and everything. It was really crazy. And there was these different realms that you could jump into and dimensions. And there were then it was like as it progressed, there was these shadowy figures and kind of like the edge of the dream where it wasn't loaded in. So it's kind of like a video game where if it's not loaded in, it's just kind of gray and pixelated and weird, and you want to avoid that. And if you get too close, then these like shadowy figures would chase you down. So it was very much like avoid those areas. But it was this big discovery. It was this crazy dream. It inspired me to almost write a short story, and then I never got around to it.
I think you should. I mean, that's where Stephen King gets most of his ideas is from his dreams. And I know that like your grandfather always tells me like you need to write your dreams down because my dreams are so freaking crazy. And he's like, you have a book, like you have a story, but I'm kind of like you. I'm like, And some of the dreams are so crazy and wild. I don't feel like I have words. Like, how do I don't know how to put it pen to paper. Like, I don't know how to convey this world.
Yeah,
It's too complex. It's too much. It's almost like I wouldn't know how to capture it with written word. Maybe like a visual art I could, but like written word, I don't know.
yeah. Like it'd be hard to have a whole fleshed out narrative about it. Some of the dreams are just harder to expand upon and write down, I guess, than you can remember them.
I know I had a dream the other night, and when I woke up, I was like, I've got to write this down because it was cool, it was crazy, it was, I felt like it was an important dream. And then I didn't write it down, and now I couldn't for the life of you tell you what it was even about, but I knew in the moment like it was important and maybe I should take note of it. And did I heed my own? No, I didn't.
Yeah. I should have written down so many more dreams. I wrote down a couple. I don't remember where I wrote them down. I can't find the journal anywhere. But
Oh no.
the ones that really stand out, though, have stuck with me. Like that one that I had that was really detailed and in depth. I had one where I've had a bunch of dreams where I'm, chased or like I'm about to die and then wake up. But I've only had one where like I did wake up, but it was like World War II, and I think it was like I could never. I was just always trying to figure out what theater of World War II. I think it was like the Winter War, or it could have been just of the Eastern Front in general, with the Soviets. And I don't know what side I was on or what was what, but I ended up getting shot, and then I was just like my back hurt, and I was just like in a hole, kind of bleeding out in my dream, and I was like, that was kind of crazy. When I woke up, I was
That
just
sounds
like,
like you were experiencing or remembering like a past life.
yeah, that one was quite vivid, and I was like, usually I wake up before I get to that point.
Yeah, before you
Um,
experience the pain.
yeah, because I usually don't, you don't usually feel anything in a dream, and I did, and it was very weird to say the least. I was just like, yeah, that's probably a past life.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
Um,
You were remembering and like reliving it, that experience that maybe that's how you died in that life. Maybe that was your most
yeah,
recent past life.
yeah, could be. I'm really fascinated by stuff like that. Like dreams really fascinate me. I always try to understand them or think about how they're connected to reality or what inspires them. I've also had dreams where I've had this recurring dream where it's kind of this like weird dimension, kind of like one of those shadowy dimensions that I was talking about in that other dream. But it's like there's like fire and light and like all this sort of thing behind me, and it's like backlighting the shadows and the clouds and the distance, and I can't turn around because if I turn around, then I get like electrocuted and wake up. So it's kind of like I don't know what tattoos strap that happened. I think that was like three different times at the same dream, where the similar ended up in the similar location. And there's words that I don't know and don't want to say that I hear when I get shocked. I don't remember them, but I wouldn't want to remember them if I did.
Do you think
Really
that's
creepy.
like a future life, or it could be like a parallel reality that you're living?
Yeah, I don't know. The first time it happened was like that was really creepy. The second time it happened, I was like, why did I have that dream again? The third
Right.
one was like, I really don't want to have this again because
Yeah,
like everything goes white and it's just like boom, like it's like a thunder and boom, it's white and then I'm awake.
I find it fascinating. It kind of makes me wonder, the holographic universe and string theory, where it's like a part of me believes it because the world of 2012 and prior felt very different. And then with the Mandela effects, it's almost like, did the world end in 2012 and we shift to like the next nearest timeline? And in this timeline, things are just a little bit different. But then I'm like, well, then what happens when a physical body like dies? Are you conscious? I mean, I think that when you die, you're conscious that you've died. But what happens? I mean, I know that there's so many possibilities for like afterlives, or, some people say lives between lives, or before you come back to be reincarnated. And then, of course, I don't believe everyone comes back to be reincarnated, but a lot of people do. Or
Mm.
is it that that's an illusion too, and that your consciousness just shifts from like this physical, like say, like my physical body into a newborn baby right away? Because energy never dies. You can't create or destroy energy, right?
Yeah,
I mean, your body, yeah, it physically decays, but your soul is still there, right? So yeah,
yeah,
I find all of this fascinating because there is a part of me that believes that there's multiple timelines and like multiple. But how does some people like they may start out on this one timeline, and then how do you get over here? And then what happens to is that the dream? Is that like our dreams? Are we tapping into those other timelines via our dreams?
and that's something that I think that one dream of mine where you were able to jump into dimensions, you were able to jump into other people's dreams, you're able to jump into other timelines. Like, I wonder if that's actually like what could happen. It's probably not possible for several reasons to actually do it purposely, but I wonder if there is like certain times, if you go to sleep at certain times, or if you enter certain states of mind at certain times, that you could probably tap into different dimensions or
I think we do. All right. Well,
okay.
thank you, Kyle. I know you have to get going, and I ended on a kind of a cliff note, but we are going to do another Zoom with Catherine, Kyle's
Yeah.
fiance. and who is also an empath and highly intuitive, just like her fiance, Kyle. And